you walk on the streets and you trip over four people and they're all in technology. Really, growing up in India, you had to be a doctor or an engineer. So you're going down that path. Nowadays, everyone likes the cool factor. They want to say they're working in AI. They want to say they're generative AI, all that. Desirable is not an issue in AI.
Awesome. Welcome to the next Media House podcast, Simulated Reality. How are you doing today, Srini?
I'm doing very well.
Fantastic. Not such a perfect weather for San Francisco today, unfortunately.
I'm from Ohio, so this is normal for me.
That's good. Yeah, so what's the difference between working out of Ohio and working out of the Bay Area? What is it about the Bay Area that makes it such a... Or do you not think that is?
I think after COVID, where you work doesn't matter, because what that whole pandemic did was it opened up the world, because the best minds are everywhere. They're not just located in one place, right? So just telling you, I came back from India. Some of the best people that work in this space that I'm in are there, right? And distance is not an issue anymore, right? But back to your question, I think what made Silicon Valley and San Francisco special for technology was you could come to one place and you walk on the streets and you trip over four people and they're all in technology, right? But versus from where I am in Ohio, it's a much more mixed economy, right? So it's not like every other person you run into is a technology person. So I do believe that there's something very, very special about San Francisco and the Bay Area in terms of technology. But that's changing, right? Because I can sit anywhere in the world and connect to some of the best minds these days.
Were you always interested? Were you destined for a career in technology? How did you kind of end up? Walk us a little bit to your Rackspace journey.
Yeah, well, again, just like most of these things, I've enjoyed every moment in technology. But how I ended here was just really more of an accident, right? And I really, growing up in India, you had to be a doctor or an engineer. So you're going down that path. But the thing that I always liked doing, and I still enjoy doing, which is why I'm doing this all these years later, is I always enjoyed finding out how things worked. Okay. Right? If I see something going on, I'm looking at the camera and going, okay, I wonder how that recording is being made. How the sensors are picking it up and converting it. So that how things work was fascinating to me, right?
Yeah. And it's like American in 3 Idiots trying to open.
Yeah, that's it. I'm the type of guy who will kind of look at this stuff and then try to take it apart so that you understand how things work. Because once you understand how things work, then the things you can build with it, the things you can create become much more easier. So for me, that was the passion. And I did, as I said, my parents wanted me to go down and be a doctor. And as I was going through that journey, well, being a doctor, you can't take apart things and put it back in there. But at the same time,
that would be very dangerous.
Very dangerous. But in the late 80s, when I grew up in India, computers were just coming in.
Yeah.
And by pure accident, my dad basically said, "Hey, there's this new thing like computers that I don't know what it is, but you should go check it out, right?" And so there was a master's degree program being offered in Mumbai University at that point in time. It was the first year it was offered. Went in, did the entrance test, and got in. And really, I haven't looked back since then, because this gave me the perfect way to kind of explore that curiosity, right?
Yeah.
When you see a program working, I wonder how that works, right? So algorithms came naturally. How you write code became natural. So that's got into it by accident, but it's been a phenomenal journey as I've gone through that. And from that point in time, it is just, for me, been a learning journey. One of the greatest things about being in technology over the last 30 years is it has changed every single year, right? Yeah. Every single year something gets better. And over the last 2 years, it's gotten even worse or better, whichever way you want to look at it. Because with AI, things are changing every single day.
Yeah.
Right, every day. And so that constant fascination of how things are evolving, how you can use it for that, has kept me to where I am. And that's at the core, that's why I enjoy doing what I do.
Was coming up with this Rackspace journey, or coming up with the Foundry of AI.
Yeah.
The FAIR background was also your inquisitive mind.
Absolutely.
Continuous work. Tell us a little bit about how you thought about the idea.
Well, look, I already said my master's degree I did back in India in 1987. I completed it, and my thesis, believe it or not, was artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Right, but at that time it was rudimentary.
I wasn't even born then, and you were doing AI.
Well, you just reminded me how old I am.
No, I did not mean it. I mean, you were doing AI a long time back, is what I'm trying to say.
No.
I am old now.
It's just that whole journey started then. But I think AI over the last couple of years, right? It's just with the introduction of large learning models and GPT and others, it's just become mainstream. Everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to be in it. And one of the not so good things about the industry we're in is until yesterday, probably nobody talked about it, right? And then suddenly everybody's an expert, right? and magically it happened where like they went from being novices in it to creating centers of excellence and expertise and things like that. I told you my background, and to me that always sounded fake about the industry. So to me, what was more real is this technology is evolving every single day, right? And the best thing you can do is to stay involved in the technology and get your hands on into it. So if you think back to the Industrial Revolution, like 200 years ago or something, foundries were the place where you would actually bring in raw materials like steel and this thing. You used machinery to create things of value to customers. That's what a foundry was, and that when Rackspace had to go into that space, that resonated. That was in the back of my mind. It's all about creating things of value, and foundries where you actually got your blue collar, getting your hands dirty and getting things done. So the whole concept of Foundry for AI by Rackspace came in, and it was a really good coincidence that FAIR was fair, because about AI, it's all about implementing it responsibly in organizations.
Yeah.
So having that fair implementation was a happy coincidence. But the word that attracted me to what we're doing is the Foundry. And that has actually really helped us, because I go talk to our customers and I say, look, if you're looking for an expert, don't talk to me, because this space is evolving every day. And don't believe anyone who says they're an expert in this space as well. But what I can tell you is I can tell you what technology looks like today, what can be done with it now, and how do you set yourself up so that you can kind of grow with the technology as it's going forward.
It's fair to call fair.
It's fair to call fair. There's so many opportunities for using that piece, but the happy coincidence that I enjoy doing is, I think what's different about the way Rackspace is going about it is we want to make sure that AI, when it's implemented, we're doing it in a responsible way.
Why Rackspace? What's the story behind the name Rackspace?
Yeah, well, Rackspace is like, we've been in this business for 25 plus years, right? And this is an organization that is very innovative. Like 25 years ago to almost 30 years ago, when the whole internet was taking off and people were starting to put their websites on the internet and do transactions on the web, it was really tough to support these applications because web technology was pretty complex in those days. Well, Rackspace was formed to do managed hosting of these websites. It was brand new. Nobody else was doing this at that point in time, and we did that. And as that has continued to evolve, you essentially, when you think about it, if I'm managing your software, your application, your websites, you're buying space in a rack in a data center.
Okay.
So Rackspace, like the origins of it came back to, hey, you don't have to build your own data centers, you don't have to manage your own data centers, but just buy space on our racks and you can, don't worry about all of those mechanics. We're the experts. We'll take care of it for you. You guys can go out and build that. So that was the origin of this company. And as you kind of fast forward to that through cloud and everything else, we've stayed true to that, right? Which is, for us, we're an engineering and technology company. So technology is our core. We are people who actually help implement customers so they can implement solutions for customers so they can focus on what's important. Because if you're an insurer or a bank, banking is your main business. You shouldn't have to worry about all of the complexities of managing technology. We can do that for you, right? So that blue collar foundry type of thing, where let us handle the technology complexity is what this company was founded on. And for us, the Foundry for AI by Rackspace was a natural extension of what we've done for 25 plus.
So your services include a lot of hardware as well?
Yeah, so if I step back and talk about Rackspace very quickly, Rackspace, the first thing we tell everyone is we're a customer first company because we exist because of our customers.
Okay.
So it's customer first, cloud first, right? That's, you look at any of our presentation, any of our material, you'll see customer first, cloud first. Customer first because we absolutely want to do the right thing so that the customers can go deliver what they are actually doing. And so the cloud first is because we are a cloud company. We are not. We don't do mainframes. We don't do the legacy.
So you don't build AI.
No, we actually do build AI. So I was getting to it. So there's two components to it, right? So when we say cloud first, we help our customers build applications and solutions on the cloud, right? And there's two specific deployments of cloud. There's a public cloud setup, which is where we work with AWS and Azure and Google Cloud. So when we build these solutions, we can deploy it on their cloud infrastructure. The other option that a lot of our customers also are asking for is a private cloud option, which is they want to run this thing in like with cloud-like characteristics, but in a single tenant mode in that piece. Well, that's where we do provide hardware, operational support and others. So on the private cloud side, we provide the entire stack, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and then the applications that run on top of it. On the public cloud side, we build applications, we actually build data and application solutions, and we deploy them and operate them on public cloud, right? AWS, Azure.
Yeah, so the entire tech stack essentially is...
It's the entire tech stack with a focus on cloud.
Got
right?
it.
Yeah.
There's a framework, ideate, incubate, industrialize.
Yeah.
Right? I want to know a little bit more about that. So
yeah.
The words are self-explanatory, but
Yeah.
I want to understand your philosophy behind it because I think any project, if you want to do, it
Yeah.
kind of fits into that. But
Yeah.
what does it kind of mean?
So look, a big part of it when you're trying to be customer first, the idea is not to complicate this. AI is complex as it is. You know, you just have to pick up any journal, magazine, just to read about all of the developments. It's actually pretty complex. There's no added benefit to complicating it further when you're trying to help customers. So first thing we wanted to do was to make sure that we made AI approachable, right? Approachable, and say, look, it's not it's not complicated to use and implement AI. The process, the product development process you have to go through is you have to come up with an idea, ideate. You have to be able to prove that idea works in your space. That is the incubate side. So it's one thing to have an idea. It's another thing to actually convert it into something that is actual. Let's do that. But let's not forget the end result is not to just build a toy or build a pilot or a prototype. It's to industrialize it, you know, because the only way AI becomes useful to any organization is when you start using it and getting the benefits of it.
Yeah.
That's the industrialized portion. So we said like it's very the process is actually very self-explanatory, but you have to go through the process of ideating something, incubating it in your environment, and industrializing it. Because when you complete that cycle, then you can start delivering results to customers.
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard very recently, it was from an entrepreneur, just one of these scrolling on social media and YouTube, is like, there's a lot of ideas, and people is filled with really smart people with ideas. There are very few people who can execute, right? And probably that kind of, it reminds me your idea of the philosophy fits this. When you say that incubate and industrialize, essentially you're trying to say do a POC, get an MVP, and then scale as much as possible. And that kind of hand holding goes a long way, especially with organizations and this thing. What are some of the really cool projects that you've worked on through this ideate, incubate, industrialize? Can you give us an example?
Several, right? Like some of my favorite ones are in Singapore, right? Like we work with a not-for-profit, non-profit organization that focuses on helping people who are on the verge of committing suicide. It's a suicide hotline. right? Like where you can actually call
Okay.
and talk to someone to be able to, basically when you're in the worst phase of your life, when you talk to someone and you're able to get that counseling, you can most of the times come back from the edge, right? So that there's nothing more noble than trying to save human lives. So this organization does that. But one of the challenges in organizations such as this is like, this is people do it because of voluntary things they pay. So there's a lot of attrition in terms of the people who are on the call. So we leveraged AI and generative AI to kind of look through previous transcripts of calls, like when was it done the best way, what types of conversations should you have,
Okay.
and then it never replaces a human being, but if I have someone who's brand new on the suicide hotline and you need guidance on how to kind of have that conversation, we had an AI assisting them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's essentially helping human beings by making sure that AI is used for good, right? That's you don't get it, the solutions don't get any more satisfying than that, right? You can always do things that make things more efficient and save you money and those types of things. But that's something that I absolutely like. It's a really cool project that we enjoyed working with that organization around, and we can actually start doing more and more, in that space. That's definitely one that we really enjoyed working on. We've got a few others that I could talk to where again, this starts to get to be a little bit more organizations and corporate, and not that it's boring, but AI becomes real in organizations when it's actually delivering value, because the cool factor wears out very quickly.
Yeah.
So we've shown it, but if it's going to cost me a lot of money, or if it's not of any use, it's not going to be useful. So we've used it to simplify complex areas. One of the challenges in the industry today is there's not enough subject matter experts no matter what you look at, right? There's not enough SMEs in technology. There's not enough SMEs and subject matter experts who can help you navigate the regulatory guidelines, because it keeps changing and evolving. So what's happened over the last 15, 20 years is that with the advancements, the domains have become so complicated that it's very difficult to kind of develop enough humans to catch up with that piece. So a lot of the solutions that we have been implementing in our first wave of AI has been, how do you learn from that pool of knowledge? Like if it's compliance, right? How do you go learn from that so that you can get a human being and assist that human being to make better decisions, right? So that's a good way to look at it. And I think that's a really good use of AI, because these domains are going to get more and more complex. New things are going to come out, new regulations are going to come out, and it's really tough for us as human beings to stay up to date with all the changes.
What do you think are some of the most pressing problems that enterprises are facing today, especially when it comes to AI, and where do you think they need the most assistance, especially in considering Gen AI?
Yeah. So first of all, I think we covered one area, which is in general having subject matter experts who know how to implement these solutions is a challenge. But let's leave that aside for the time being. I think a lot of people are wrestling with the impact of AI in an organization, right? I've seen analysts describe it as, okay, this is the next big thing, right? Like we saw cloud, and I think they are grossly underestimating the potential of AI. Because everything that you're seeing, both good and bad impact of AI, is real, right? I think the potential for AI to change who we are as human beings in a positive way is absolutely real. The same way all the bad things that they're projecting is also real. So I think one of the big things that most organizations are struggling with today is, how do you adopt these technologies? How do you adopt AI in a responsible way in my organization, but also do it in such a way that I don't put the business at risk, right? Generative AI is fantastic. Every one of us has used ChatGPT or Claude or something like that. But the error rates, the hallucination rates in ChatGPT are still pretty high. It's great when you're writing an article, or at least writing the first draft of an article that you're going to review later and then edit and change and make it better. That's great. That's a fantastic use case. But if you're going to use generative AI to answer important questions, the customer is asking, like, what do I do? And it's a life and death scenario, or if it's a question of whether I get my loan or, the high stakes are there, then the hallucination and the error rates right now that you have are too high to be accepted. So it doesn't mean you stay away from the technology, but how do you adopt it in a responsible way to help human beings is something that most organizations wrestling with right now. I'm not going to say struggling with. They want to use it, but they're trying to find the best way to use it. And the way we approach it and the way we're trying to help them is you have to think about AI as an employee in your workforce. Right? So if I'm putting AI into Rackspace, AI is just like any other employee that I hire. If I hire an employee that doesn't match my company's values, then what he or she is going to do sometimes is not going to, we don't do things, a certain way. We follow the rule of the law, all of that stuff. But if the employee that I hire doesn't match that, bad things can happen, right? And so companies are used to dealing with that, right? Or used to dealing. Well, they've got to adopt the same attitude with AI, because if I'm going to bring AI into it, how do I train the AI to operate with the values that we have as a company? And how do you govern it to make sure, how do you put the guardrails and governance in place so that it doesn't veer away from what we want it to do?
Yeah. If there was, I'm sure that you talk with a lot of clients on a very regular basis, right? But if there was one question that you would like to ask some of these VPs of data science, CDOs, and consumer organizations that are your clients, in the context of Gen AI, in terms of how you can serve better, what would that one question be and why?
Well, I think it's always going to be, what is the purpose that you want to use AI for? Because I think the core of what you need to implement, it starts there, right? Because today the technology has become so powerful that you can create you can create anything, right? Just because the technology is there, you can go and create this. But I think just to use you're using an iPhone to record things and others. Steve Jobs and others kind of pioneered the whole thing, and it's nothing new, but there's something called user-centered design, right? And in the user-centered design, there are three components of it. If you're going to build a solution, is it desirable, right? Do people want something like that?
Yeah.
Then the second thing is, if it's desirable, is it feasible? Someone may want something, but can I actually build it? Is the technology there? Is it feasible? And then the third component is the technology viable? You may like it and you may want it. I can build it, but can you make money off of it? Or can you actually have the desired outcome, if that's the case? And that simple thing hasn't changed, right? So what I ask data science and others is, clearly, it's desirable for sure. Things are desirable because nowadays everyone likes the cool factor. They want to say they're working in AI. They want to say they're generative AI, all that. Desirable is not an issue in AI.
Yeah.
Actually, increasingly feasible is not a problem either, because with the rate at which technology is changing, every day there's something new coming out. Yeah, if it wasn't there yesterday, it'll be there in 2 days. It's that fast. So when desirability and feasibility is no longer the issue, viability is most important. What is it that you're building and why are you building it is more important. And what happens is it is forcing a lot of technologists and data-focused people to step away from their comfort zone, which is, if I'm a data person, I talk about data. If I'm a technology person, I talk about technology. It forces them to step away from that to say, but why? And why am I actually building something like this? And what's the purpose of that? And I think the more people we can get into that discussion at this stage, we're going to have way more successful implementations of AI, and we're going to have AI that's responsible in the...
Yeah, I think that's a good framework to put into. Desirability, feasibility, viability. The first two are easy to achieve. The third one is...
In AI, right? Yeah. I used Apple as an example, but Apple actually got it right, because most other device makers, phone makers, they focus on the other stuff. Like, you look at anybody else. I'm not going to take name. You take anyone else. the first thing you'll see in their commercial is, oh, I've got a 24 megapixel camera and it's got a steel case and an aluminum case and all of this other stuff, the battery life for 28 hours, and that's what they talk about. But if you look at any Apple commercial, they'll never show any of that stuff, because they'll show some young people running around taking a video, shooting real life video, and they make it a lifestyle brand. They make it desirable first.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the stuff follows.
That reminds me of a quote in Mad Men. Have you seen Mad Men?
Yeah.
It's a really cool TV show.
Yeah.
It says advertising is all about happiness.
Yeah.
You have to make people happy.
Yeah. When people are happy with what they use, but actually what they take it farther and say it needs to be desirable. So now I crave it. I want that piece, right? That's the idea behind that user-centered design framework has been time tested. It's been a really good one. And when we went down this whole Foundry path, we just said, look, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to create new terms and other types of things that already exist. But how you apply that has to change, because the technology and the desirability of this technology has become very high. It's through the roof. Everybody wants to be in AI. Everybody wants to build something.
Tell me a little bit about what comes next for Rackspace. You built this intelligent co-pilot for enterprises.
Yeah.
Right? What does that kind of achieve? Why did you need a framework to build a Gen AI?
Yeah.
Why is there a need to kind of formalize it into a product? Is it an accelerator? Is it?
Yeah. So it's both. Let me explain this. So the intelligent coworker for the enterprise, the ICE, we built, is to solve a lot of the problems we've been talking about, right? We're 25 plus years in this business. And there are so much information that's been gathered over these 25 years. It's stored in repositories and PowerPoints and in articles and wikis and others. And if you're a new employee joining us, it is very difficult to kind of find out where all of the sources of information are. It's not just that. For someone like myself, I've been in this company for 2 years. I don't know everything that exists in this company. There's the sources are vast. So what the intelligent coworker for the enterprise does is we've gone out and ingested a lot of this knowledge into our solution. We built it on top of a large language model and put a natural language interface in front of it, so I can come in and say, what solutions do I have in VMware, right? And it goes and picks all the latest stuff. It'll tell you, here's what that we can offer our customers. Here's here's the source from which I got that information. So it really is a companion to anyone coming in to be able to use that. And as the knowledge base for Rackspace continues to grow, that will be a companion, right? And for us, it was really interesting to build that, because remember what I told you. People have to treat AI as an employee. So for us, we had to train the model so that it behaved and responded in a way that's consistent with our values as a company. We're a customer first, cloud first. How do you actually build that into the training to be able to do that? So once we built it, it started to serve 3 different purposes. One, we can use it internally. Number 2, back to this Foundry aspect. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not talking to a customer from a PowerPoint. I'm showing them actual code, right? This is the way we've used it, and and so that starts to build credibility. It starts to build confidence in our customers that we can do it. And then the third component is, so if we did the first 2, we can make it an accelerator. So we'll extract the key portions of our design and make it available. So if you go to the AWS marketplace or Azure marketplace, you can see the ICE accelerator sitting there.
Yeah.
And so it helps us do that. So it's all 3 of those things.
One of the things that I really understand is your value proposition in terms of providing a complete tech stack, right? From data, cloud, to an end-to-end application. But everybody is building co-pilots.
Yeah.
Everyone is building co-pilots.
Yeah.
What makes Rackspace different?
So everybody's building co-pilots, but it's back to the people who are building co-pilots today are building it to enhance their existing software stack, right? So if I'm Salesforce, I'm building Einstein so that I can kind of make everything in Salesforce available. If I'm ServiceNow, I'm building the same thing for myself. If I'm Atlassian, who provides wikis, they're building a co-pilot. So you're going to see a variety of co-pilots pop up in the market. But we're coming at it from an enterprise standpoint. So let's just I'll use Rackspace as an example. I'm there. We use Salesforce. We use ServiceNow. We use Atlassian Wiki. And they're all getting their co-pilots to us. But the angle that we're coming in with is for Rackspace, i.e. for any of our customers, you have to think about all of these as employees coming into your environment. Yeah. How do you actually get them to collaborate? So it's almost like when you're building a team and you went out and hired people from 6 different companies to come in, and everyone's coming in and saying, hey, I came from IBM, and at IBM we used to do it this way. And then the next guy came in from some other company. Yeah. And it's really, while all of those perspectives are valid, it's not relevant to your enterprise because that was in the company they were in. So what we're trying to do, and what ICE is different, and with the accelerator is different, is you're trying to build that for that enterprise and integrate these other things in so that the experience is seamless. And the AI that you're putting in is an employee of your company, or at least behaves like an employee of your company.
Fantastic. On that note, thank you so much, Srini, for taking the time out. I think it's wonderful to know your journey. I think we talked about different cities, we talked about technology, your passion for it, what you're building, you clearly are very passionate about, and all the very best, and thank you so much.
Appreciate the time. It's actually fun to talk to it. You made it a very engaging conversation.